I had the passion. I just wanted to dance, that was, I loved being on stage, and I loved the feeling that it gave me to be in this kind of presence. And when I was in the company, what happened was after the first year, I had mononucleosis.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Like the lights went out for six
Mm.
months. And then after that, I had an injury. And I think my body was, I mean, I could say it was self-sabotage, but I think it was my body going, hold up, this isn't mine anymore. This is, it was kind of like, if you play your cards right, you're going to go straight to the top. And I wasn't kind of a person that was like to follow. It's the
Mm.
kind of person that's like, this is my passion, this is my expression, but it was being like a piece of clay that needed to be molded in a certain way to fit in their box, in
Yeah.
their vision of me.
I'm not a doll, I don't play small. I'm not a doll, don't box me in. I'm not a doll, I own my voice. Just you doll killer.
Welcome to Doll Killer, the podcast where we smash stereotypes, rewrite the rules, and speak our truth out loud. My name is Cécile Delepière. I'm your host, and I am Doll Killer. She used to be a professional dancer at the San Francisco Ballet, an art form that requires discipline and a devotion to perfection. Then one day, it all cracked open. The box she'd built for herself shattered in pieces. Her own body broken. Corinne Blum is now an authenticity and intuitive coach, a soul reader, and a spiritual mentor. Today, she joins Doll Killer to talk about the beauty of unmasking, the courage to fall apart, and the sacred rebellion of being real. Corinne, I'm so happy to have you in the Doll Killer podcast. Welcome.
Thank you so much. It's such an honor to be here. So much fun.
Yes, we've known each other for a few, I would say a year and a half maybe.
Yeah.
And we met on the island of Mallorca, and it felt like a soul connection, like we connected immediately.
Yeah. Yeah. It was beautiful.
So
Even though you thought I was the waitress. Do you
what
remember?
did? Oh no, I did. I don't remember that.
I do, but it was great though, because it was this instant like moment of laughter and then connection. It was really, really
Yes,
wonderful.
yes. I'm gonna put some incense, like I like to do in my home, and then I'd like for you to pick a card. So I have this
Okay.
beautiful deck called the Voice of the Souls. I think you're just gonna kind of tell me to stop, and
Hmm.
then that will be the right moment.
Okay. Now.
Source.
Mm. Oh, perfect.
Wow.
Beautiful.
Yes.
Mm.
Wow. Well, then that's a good transition to my first question for you. And one of the first things that we talked about when we met is you talked about how you remembered your birth. And I'd love for you to tell me more about this, to take us into the birth canal.
Yeah, yeah. Wow. Quite literally. Yeah. It's so funny that this question is coming up right now because it's a piece that I'm really looking at. So, and I'll tell you why in a moment. So my memory was very visceral of being in a very small enclosed space, and the light being kind of amber like in a way. And I remember feeling already like very restricted. I really remember it around the crown of my head, and having this moment. My mom was in 23 hours of labor, and they were getting ready to get the forceps out to pull me out. I did not want to come out. I was a week late already. And I just had this moment of like, okay, here we go again.
Hmm.
And it was with that tone, with that kind of, it wasn't a like, woohoo, I'm ready to go. It was with this, like, I know what this realm is like. I know what I'm in for. I know that it's not always going to be easy, but I've come here on a mission. I've volunteered to come here. And so like, okay, here we go again. And I remember coming out and I remember the fluorescent lights and the doctor and my mom was here and the kind of like, oh my God, boom, here we are. And I say that I've been sitting with it recently because the times that I find that it's hard to be on this planet, I remember that. I remember that moment. But I also equally remember, but you chose to be here, Corinne. Like you chose to be here because it's easy to have that kind of like, oh man, I didn't want to come here. But I chose it,
Yes.
right?
Was there like a specific moment maybe in your childhood that you said, "Oh, I remember that," or is this just always been with you? Like it's just that's it. I just or like yeah, maybe it's just like the consciousness of like that's I remember my birth because
Yeah.
it's not common. Like I don't remember my birth. I mean, I have what I've been told, but
Yeah.
it's very very rare that someone does remember that even like childhood memories.
Yeah, and I've sat with that, and I mean I have so many childhood memories, really visceral childhood memories. And when I was sitting meditation this morning, I asked myself that same question. I was like, has this always been in my memory, or was there a point? And what I heard was, I came through the veil with a level of remembrance of who I am as a soul. But equally, like when we depart, often they say that like in the spirit realm, they don't remember how hard it is to be human, right? Because the amnesia can go both ways. You have the amnesia when you come in, but you can also have the amnesia when you come out of like, yeah,
Mm.
I want to go down and be a human again. And that sounds like good fun. And this lesson, wow, that sounds amazing. With the forgetting the amnesia of like the visceral
Mm.
human experience of it. And so I really heard that it's like you can cross the veil remembering an aspect of both sides. So my answer to that was, I think I just came in with that remembrance, with that consciousness, because I don't remember there was a moment of like, oh wow, I all of a sudden remember.
Mm.
I think I came in like I have this one baby picture where I'm in the little tub outside, like a little baby swimming pool. And I have this look on my face. I probably have a line here because I've been crinkling this part since I was a baby because I was so contemplative. Like I think I was really came in with the observer of like, what is this crazy place?
So as a child, you were also discovering all your intuition, or was it like you were already an intuitive as a child? You were already um, seeing things, connecting. Like, did you have anything special that happened when you were a child?
When I was a child, I think I had a very magical world because on a physical level, I was left alone a lot.
Mm.
I have memories of, especially when my parents separated when I was probably two and a half, and
And
my
you're an
father,
only child.
I'm an only child,
Yeah.
yeah.
Mm.
And my father, when I was with him, he's in his own world, narcissist, like very vain, like in his kind of, I have so many memories of sitting in rooms by myself being like, isn't he meant to be the adult, like here with me? Like I'm just a little kid. I'm a baby. I'm a toddler. But for that reason, I think I really went into my internal world. So I had like, I remember seeing fairies, and I remember communicating, even though I could never see and hear it. It was like I was communicating either with myself, my higher self, with, at the time I wouldn't be able to label who I was speaking to, but I think I had to go into a very different world. And as I said before, I think I was very observant. I have memories of falling asleep, being, I don't know, 3 4 years old, maybe even younger, and having this conversation kind of with the universe of like, what's beyond that, and what's beyond that. And I would get to the darkness, essentially the void, and be like, well, what's beyond the void? I had this curiosity, I had this
Yeah.
very contemplative nature. So I think that, that must have meant that I was very intuitive and very energetically sensitive and very empathic in those ways. But
Yeah.
I sometimes look back at the little girl and go like, wow, that was a not always an easy place to be,
Yeah, that
right?
was my next question actually, is like how did you then feel amongst others, like, I don't know, in school or like
Mhm.
friends? Like, did you feel that you were part of, did you feel isolated, or did you feel that you were entering the society's box?
Yeah, great question. Um, hmm. I think when I was young, I was shy, but then once I got to know people, I was very gregarious. So like once I felt comfortable, but I always use the analogy of like being a cat in a room, that a cat gets
Mm,
thrown into a room and kind of is like feeling it out and needing to intuit, like, okay, what is this space and how does it feel? And so I would often at the beginning feel like I was on the outside. I had no problem speaking with adults. Like when I was younger, I much preferred having conversations with adults because I could speak on that level.
yeah.
Um, and with children, it was harder. But then I remember when I was 13, I got to this point of I'm like, I don't want to be shy anymore. There was a girl that was a bit older than me in my ballet class that I was like, oh, Debbie, I want to be like Debbie, who's like, funny and extroverted. And one day I just felt like I kind of said, okay, I'm going to make that choice.
Mm,
Right. And it really was, it's not a choice to be someone different. It's really a choice to be another aspect of yourself and to bring, because I was silly and gregarious and funny and, but it was like I wanted to bring that out into the world. And
mm,
it's like these are one of the first boxes I think are our own, of what we place ourselves in, and just wanting to, maybe that was even the beginning of really feeling like, how do I authentically show up as all of
mm,
me, not just an
mm.
aspect of me.
Yes.
um,
Wow. And so, you decided to become a ballet dancer, or was it even a choice, or is that how? First of all, how did you come across dance, and how did you decide that you wanted
mm.
to dance?
I was living in Milan, and my mom had a friend who had been a professional ballet dancer, and he showed me a video of Margot Fonteyn and Rudolf Nureyev, Romeo and Juliet, and I fell in love. Like I absolutely fell in love. Now, mind you, my mom, when I was 4, tried to put me in ballet, and I hated it. I just hate. I think I was like, I don't want to do this stuff. I was very much like, I think I was always a kid that kind of knew what I wanted. But when, fast forward to 6, 7 years old, I absolutely fell in love with it. But it wouldn't be for another 2 years when we moved to the States, and a friend of mine in class was like, do you want to come to ballet? Do you want to come to ballet class with me? And that's kind of when it began, where I really, because I had been Juliet like in the living room, for years. And then it came into actuality a couple of years later. Yeah.
So then, I mean, there's also like the passion of dancing, but like to actually make it your profession is quite the commitment, and the discipline, and so how did you how did you decide to, like, okay, I'm gonna make it my livelihood, and become a professional ballet dancer?
Yeah. I think it was a combination of just, at that point, it was just passion. It was just
Mhm.
pure passion.
Mm.
And I switched to a ballet school that was more of a professional ballet school. And I think from an early age, this is the interesting thing about when you love doing something, as an art, is I had the passion. I just wanted to dance,
Mm.
that was it. I loved being on stage, and I loved the feeling that it gave me to be in this kind of presence.
Mhm.
um, but I also noticed that, all of the teachers kind of went, oh, okay, she has a path, she has a career, it was like they were laying out my life's path. And in that moment, I kind of was okay with it, right? Because I was young and I was excited and I wanted it. But if I were to look back and look kind of like 11, 12, 13, 14, especially coming into my teenage years when it got more serious. Like I did my high school in 3 years instead of 4 so that I could graduate early. And I was already kind of on that trajectory of, right, I'm going to go into a professional company. And everything was geared to that, everything. And in so many ways, I look back and I go, wow, that was really an amazing experience and opportunity. But what would kind of unfold several years after, which would catapult me into this whole authenticity path,
Yeah.
was that what was once didn't feel like mine anymore. Because I was speaking with a friend about this morning. As artists, you can easily become a product of somebody else. And there's another box that you're put in, which is like you become this product, this package. And even though there's belief, like there was belief, my teachers believed in me, my mom believed in me, the director believed in me, and you could say, God, that's amazing, you're so lucky, Corinne, you're one of the top 5 companies in the world, and you're being groomed to go to the top of that. And when I was in the company, what happened was, after the first year, I had mononucleosis.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Like the lights went out for six months. And then after that, I had an injury. And I think my body was, I could say it was self-sabotage, but I think it was my body going, hold up, this isn't mine anymore. This is, it was kind of like, if you play your cards right, you're going to go straight to the top. And I wasn't kind of a person that was like to follow. It's the kind of person that's like, this is my passion, this is my expression, but it was being like a piece of clay that needed to be molded in a certain way to fit in their box, in their vision of me. And
And you didn't think of like, oh, I'm gonna switch maybe from ballet to another type of dance, or I guess with an injury, no, but like it didn't occur to you, like, I don't know, maybe like I'm gonna do some contemporary dance, or I'm gonna go in another box.
yeah. Well, I ended up going in those directions. I left the ballet and I kind of gave myself like, okay, I'm going to take a year off just to rest and recoup. And a year ended up being 5 years. But in that period, it was the first summer I'd had off since being a kid, and I read a lot. And that's when I kind of went into this path of who am I without the identity of being a ballet dancer. I started to really question, like, who am I, without this role. But I definitely I got invited to teach, I got invited to choreograph, I started doing acting for theater and film. And, it opened up all of these different avenues of my creativity. And eventually I did come back and retrain in contemporary. But that was a good 5 years later, once I had kind of healed.
Yeah, so it's not like you had an injury and you completely stopped and you couldn't do anything. You actually kept on going for quite a while, still in the dance world and creative world.
Well, what was interesting is I actually couldn't really dance. I was doing it, I couldn't put on point shoes, which I didn't care. I didn't want to go back into that box. That box was way too painful.
Yes.
But the interesting thing about my healing journey was that it took 7 years from beginning to end. And it was because I think I had to emotionally go through what I needed to learn from the injury, which was acceptance. Like, we so easily can, like, I hated my ankle. I hated it. I hated it for taking me away from my dreams, from my life's plan. And I had so much pain, I could hardly walk down a block without feeling. And I thought, okay, I'm going to be 30 and on crutches. So my reality was very much like, no, you don't get to do that anymore. And there was a lot of grief in that. And yet it became my wisest teacher, because it taught me, basically, I had a moment. I remember being on my bed and I'd had a steroid shot and my foot went purple. And I remember looking at it, and all of a sudden the compassion came in of like, wow, I've been so mean to you. I've been, rejecting you as something that I don't like, I don't want. You've ruined my life. And I'm like, but Corinne, this is your body. This is a part of your body. And the moment that I included it and I said, I'm sorry, um, I then everything, it's like when everything kind of falls into place. There was a
Yes.
woman that had, said, "Oh, come and see this amazing physio. He'll help heal you." And I wasn't ready for it. It didn't
Yeah.
happen. And it was in that moment when the emotional piece clicked into place that I
Mm,
saw him in within 3 months. I was cured.
yeah. And that puts you back in motion.
Yeah.
Because yeah, you
Yeah.
were kind of immobilized
Yeah.
from all of that. Wow, that's quite amazing. So that's during all that 7 years period that you went a little deeper within and started to do some more inner work.
Mm.
How then how did you transition to from this artistic life, which is still yours now, to
Mm.
but to the work that you're doing now? And well, maybe I'm jumping a little bit too far, but like, tell me what happened after that.
So that was in my early 20s. Um, I think just that question of who am I without the identity of a dancer just propelled me into. I'd always been curious about being human and relationships. My personal romantic relationships were huge teaching. And thank God I had my first relationship, which was really healthy, with a really good man. And then I went into a brief relationship with a narcissist, and I thankfully got out of that pretty quickly.
Yeah.
And then went into another healthy relationship. But I think throughout that time, it was so much of my the inner world. It reminds me of kind of maybe my childhood was almost prepping for that, being really comfortable with going inside and really being comfortable with who are you really? I think that was so I started to get interested into the whole psychological aspect and studying about, just human psychology and the inner child and all of these things. But it was very much a reflection of what I was personally going through. And I
Mm.
think, a big box that we get put in is that it's not okay to be you.
Yeah.
And I was, in my 20s, um, I'm a very emotionally centered person. I'm very sensitive. I'm very intuitive. And I remember, even with my mom, who I'm very close with, but I remember she always was kind of like, I'm really sensitive or I'm really emotional. And I felt like, oh, there's a part of me that by society standards, I should be ashamed of that.
Yeah.
I should think that this is weak. But there is this inner part that's like, nah, I don't actually believe that to be true. But there was this point of almost inner conflict because the outer says, no, this isn't good. You shouldn't be like that. You should be different.
Yeah.
And the inner part that's like, yeah, but this is who I am. And I am asking myself, who am I truly? And what is authenticity? And what is really walking your path? And so there was, I think this is the hard thing about society. And the quote that I love most and I return to so many times is Krishnamurti's quote: "It's no measure of health to be well adapted to a profoundly sick society,"
Mm.
or
Mm-hmm.
well adjusted, I think.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so
Yeah.
there was this like, oh, should I be feeling like this? Should I be thinking and this part of me that's like always a rebel at heart, like not in a detrimental way, but the rebel at heart is like, no, I want to be me.
Mm.
I don't want to be a pawn in somebody's chessboard. I don't want to. The shoulds and shouldn'ts for me are always an indication that you're not coming from yourself. You're coming from someone else's opinion.
Yeah. I mean, it's like you didn't go from being a ballet dancer to working for a corporate company and doing a nine to
No,
five job. And
that was my only employer actually
mm,
when I danced with the ballet. It was my
mm,
only employer. And I remember when I retrained, I went to New York and I retrained and I was going to be going into contemporary. And there was a company that I really wanted to work for, dance for. And I spent a week with them and my back went out. And I think
mm,
it was my body saying, this is not what you want to be doing, Corinne. You know, you're just going to be put back in that same position of, you know, and for some people, you know, I remember there was a woman that I knew, a dancer, that she was like, tell me what to do. Like, I love that. You know, I could never be a choreographer. She just wanted to be a dancer. Like, just tell me what to do and I'll do it. And
Uh-huh.
I think I was the kind of person that, and I don't, it makes it sound like I don't ever collaborate. It's not that, but I think I had such a strong sense of self and purpose and passion and creativity that, um, yeah, it just didn't work for me to kind of be placed as something that I am not, if that makes any sense.
So you mean like becoming a choreographer yourself and to be leading others, or
No, I love the choreography.
yeah,
If I
yeah,
could have gone down that road, I would have
mm,
gone down that road further, because that
yeah,
kind of collaboration, but that was like a next level of expression,
yeah,
right? But I think being a dancer, unfortunately, for me, it was like there was the love of the art,
yeah,
but the industry, you know,
yeah. I
back
know.
to that
Just
play form.
yes, I
Yeah.
know. Being having been an actor and having to navigate that industry is quite something. So then you are in New York and you're still, you know, a dancer, but like
Mm.
so what happened for you to become an authenticity coach, and like what was the journey from the dancer to become an intuitive and authenticity coach?
Authenticity coach is a hard one, hey?
It's the th for the French.
Yeah.
Like, please help me.
Oh goodness. Every language, like in other languages, like I speak Italian and I can't say it in Italian, so don't worry, it's okay.
Because in
um,
French it's authentique. It's just T, that's fine. Voilà,
authentique.
authentique.
Yeah,
It's very
yeah,
easy.
easier. Yeah. English is a mess.
So anyway, what
Okay, so what brought me to that? God, it's like, you know, to try and like explain my life in a nutshell is so hard because
I
there's so
know.
many different unexpected twists and turns.
Mm,
I had been nomadic for about 2.5 years. I was in like San Francisco and then New York and then Berlin, and I was trying to figure out where to go. And I very out of the blue chose to go back to London.
mm,
And I was going with the intention to really make my career again being a dancer. And in that period of time, I'd been there only for about 6 weeks, and I met who would be my future husband.
mm,
No longer my husband, but my who would be my husband. And we created a wellness center together.
mm,
And I kind of just got propelled. There's two things happened. One was I got propelled into that world, and it really was stimulating the part of me that like could do something different, that wasn't me as an artist. And what was happening a little bit when I went back into dance and I was auditioning, I felt like the soul was lost in the
mm.
art worlds. I felt like what was being produced just, yeah, felt very abstract and soulless. And I just wasn't willing to break my body for it anymore. I was looking at people that were much younger than me, you know, doing an amazing performance and then in a back brace the next day. And I was just like, I can't, I've been in pain for 7 years before. I can't do
Yeah.
that.
The
So it
body
kind
doesn't
of,
lie.
yeah, no, and that's the thing. My
Mm.
body has always been the barometer,
Yeah.
always, and so I learned
Mm.
eventually to really trust it, like to listen to it and go, okay, even if your ego might want something, or you might go, oh, this looks really good on paper in your CV resume, the body, as you said, never lies.
Yeah.
And so we created this center together, and simultaneously I was getting certified to be a coach. And I just started, you know, we had the space and I was doing client sessions and workshops and bringing a little bit of movement, like doing movement therapy, but
Mm.
just mainly going into this path of authenticity and relationship to self and with others.
Mm.
So yeah, life just went like, okay, you're going that way now.
That's amazing.
That's
Did you feel so when that happened, did you feel like that, okay, that's the right path for me, or I'm I'm really embodying my soul's mission. It, I don't know, maybe it's something that you uh, felt afterwards, but like in the moment, did you feel like, oh, that's it, this is it?
Mm. I think like anything in life, there's this crossover of death and rebirth. And it's an interesting transition because it's easy to look back and go, oh yeah, I just went from this and I did that. And it seems kind of like this pretty story, right? But I remember the death was the grief. I was also grieving the fact that I was kind of saying goodbye to my life as an artist. And there was one part of that that was relieved. So there's the coming into the rebirth that's like, ooh, something different. And a different part of me came out, like my wisdom, my intuitive self, my contemplative self, like all of the years of going inwards and spending so much time alone and on my own and within myself and cultivating that finally got to come out into the world. And so that part felt so excited and enlivened, and I felt very much like I was really setting foot on my life's path. And simultaneously there was the grief of the little girl that's like, I want to be Margot Fontaine and be Juliet, like I had to let go. I never got to be Juliet. I actually got to choreograph Romeo and Juliet. I did a really cool production of that in Berkeley with like fire and all of these things.
Oh,
But
wow.
yeah, but God, so much of life is just also letting go of what we thought it was going to be and what we thought it was going to look like. And I mean, now in my 40s, I go, God, I didn't think I was going to be here, and it's just such a lesson in let go. Life is
Yeah,
just the experience, and it's going to take you on these different squiggly paths that sometimes make no sense whatsoever.
yeah,
But I think a lot of the grief is the expectation or the hope or the dream or the thought or the trajectory of what we thought it would be. And it's okay for it not to be that.
yeah. I want to stay in the authenticity. Ooh, I could say it.
Brava.
Coaching. How did your environment, friends, family react to you starting to really use your intuition, your intuitive, like, because in this society sometimes it's looked upon as being a little woo woo and a little like out there, or a little like, oh, okay, she's enlightened, or she's, sometimes it's just being judged. We're being judged for using our intuitive self.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Well, I'm laughing because I'm like, who were my friends and family at the time? Because, my family's basically my mom, and very thankfully, she's always been very supportive. And, consciousness was always a thing with us. I started meditating when I was 15, and, we'd go to Sangha. And she didn't follow any one particular path, but just consciousness was a thing. So that was luckily never something that I was coming up against. And
Mhm.
I was laughing at who were my friends at the time because I've moved so much in my life. I kind of had to reinvent myself and my friend circle wherever I ended up. And I think at that point in my life, I was actually coming from the perspective of really wanting to call in and manifest the friends that would really be like, especially women, because I had a lot of wounding around women when I was younger, and in the ballet world. And so when I was doing the coaching, and running the center, I also started doing women's circles because I was like, I want to heal this wound. I want to feel a sisterhood, and I really want to call in my soul sisters. And so by setting that intention and really working through the wound of it, I did begin to attract that. And so then naturally, I think there just was this celebration of who I was stepping into, because I was stepping more into what I would call my soul self. And that was being reflected to me through my friendships. I mean, there were the few people like my husband, who had very kind of mainstream friends that were like, you're a hippie. And I'm like, no, a hippie, I don't eat granola and wear like, hacky socks and, what they just had, there was that judgment. I just
Mm.
was like, yeah, I see beyond the norm, you could say, not mainstream for sure.
And also having a partner who are in the same world, let's say, like who has similar, maybe you're looking in the same directions, that helped, I guess, right?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, there was still, I probably was more further out than he was.
Mm.
And definitely I began writing a lot in that time. I used to write all the time. It's Facebook, this was pre-Instagram. And it would always be like a little blur, but it was very much sharing my humanity. I really believed in walking my talk. It's like, okay, if we're talking authenticity, then who are we showing up? And authenticity doesn't mean you're perfect and you're positive and you're always happy. Like I would share the hard moments of being human. And I remember he had a lot of judgment. And I think because of his friends were like, what's wrong with your girlfriend, your wife? You know, she seems sad or she seems depressed, or why, it was the what's wrong with you being put back into that you're too sensitive, you're too
Mhm.
emotional. I was sharing
It's like
that out.
there's no mask, right? Yeah, like all the masks are gone, and you're just showing up as you are. If you're feeling sad, you're showing sad. If you're
Yeah.
Most people are not like this. Like
Oh,
it's we're not being taught that kind of you know being
yeah.
taught to hide a lot what we
Yeah.
feel. Mm.
Totally. And it's like more what our society needs is not to be taught. It needs to support, like nurture, believe in, like it's okay for you to be human. And I feel like that's, when you asked earlier of like really was I coming into my purpose, from the age of 4, I always had a very strong sense that my purpose was to have a positive effect on humanity. Like
Mm.
the medium would change constantly, but whether it was through dancing or choreographing or acting, the core message was, it's okay to be human. It's okay to be you. There's nothing wrong with you. You're not broken. You don't need to be fixed.
Yeah.
Some days you're happy, some moments you're sad. It's just it's the color palette of being human, and we're painting these beautiful masterpieces that sometimes are like super freaking messy.
Yeah.
And I think I wanted to be a voice for just like, hey, yeah, this is what it's like. This is what my human experience is like. It might not be yours, but what always made my heart happy was when people said, I resonate, or thank you for giving words to something that I couldn't find words for myself. Because like you said, we're not shown, we're not taught, we're not supported, we're not believed in to really ask the question, how are you? Like, how are you doing? Like, oh, I'm fine,
Yeah. Yeah,
you know?
exactly. Yeah, I'm fine. Yeah, to show vulnerability and not as a sign of weakness, but as it's just me, and who are you
Yeah,
in this
yeah,
world? Yeah. Especially with like social media and like, just everybody wanting to show the best of themselves on or their best profile, their best look, and then or filtered and all kinds of things that uh, and or having an AI avatar now, like.
yeah. No, and it's crazy because in some ways you could say we're moving so far away from authenticity
Mm,
because of that, and just people are suffering. They're really suffering because it's like you can't even show your actual face anymore.
yeah.
And at the same time, because we're at this point of so much tension right now in society, and people, I think in the last 5 years especially, asking themselves, well, what has meaning? Like when there's so much chaos outside
Yeah.
and things are crazy and everything's turned upside down, you have to start asking yourself what has meaning. And when you ask yourself that question, you have to face the real rawness of yourself, because the facade isn't going to be fulfilling anymore. It's not
No.
going to mean anything anymore. But at the same time, it's like this polarity and this juxtaposition of um, things becoming more and more fake. And my response to
Mm,
that is, that's when you have to become more authentic,
yeah.
even more so. And not that that's a show or a mask in and of itself. It's like, no, get more real, get more comfortable
Yeah.
in the rawness and in the nakedness, and push yourself beyond that comfort zone, into true acceptance, which is it doesn't matter what I think, feel, or experience. It's okay to be me,
Yeah.
you know?
How do you like, because you work with, one-on-one with people, and so if someone shows up, is booking like a session with you, and obviously you start from scratch, because if um, they come to you, it's obviously that they need support and guidance.
Mm.
Um, what's the process like? How do you, yeah, how does it work to like, do you do a movement? Do you do certain rituals, exercise? Like, how does it work for someone who's like, I don't know who I am?
Mm. Yeah, that's such a good question. Um, I'll give you an answer for when I do the body work, and I'll give you the answer for when I just do one-to-one online, for example. Um, Both are the same in the sense of it's connecting to feelings. So there's no I work very intuitively, so it's really meeting that person where they're at. But I think one thing that is so lacking in our culture is feeling seen, heard, and understood. And so I'm pretty quick to hear a little bit of somebody's story and to see the pattern immediately and to kind of understand what's the driving force behind it, like the limiting belief. And then it's immediately connecting them into their humanity. So into their body, into the feeling,
Yeah.
into the emotion, and eventually also into their inner child. With the body, I remember there's one client that I've known for over a decade now. And when she first came, she described it like this. She's like, Corinne, it's like there's a bone here and everything below that is black.
Wow.
And I cannot see, feel, vision, nothing. And
Mm.
so working through the body in a way, I really love working with the body because I can see it. I can, you can touch certain things and there's a trigger, there's an emotional release, or I can see everything is stored in the body, right?
Yes.
So there's a greater invitation to drop into deeper aspects of ourselves through the body, also because for a lot of people it's uncomfortable. Our kind of white Western culture doesn't even have dance as a part of our
Yeah,
ritual,
there's just
right?
the head up here, and everything else is like
Yeah, thinking like Vogue.
the box of the head.
And so it's exactly, but it's getting out of the mind, getting into the body, getting into how do you feel? Like really, how do you feel? And then a lot of people don't even know what their feelings and emotions are. So it's getting into, sensation. What does that feel like in your body? Where in your body is it? If it
Mm,
had a voice, what would it want to say? Like it's
yeah.
giving it texture and life, and then recognizing that these are all parts of you. It's not who you truly are. They're parts of you, but those parts need to be heard. They need to have a voice. They need to be seen. And ultimately, my job is to create the safe space where the person feels like it's okay to be me. It's okay to express myself. It's okay to have sometimes opposing thoughts and feelings. It's okay to yeah, just that they feel safe. I think a lot of the times people were walking around not feeling safe because there is
Yeah.
that facade of you need to look like this and you need to be happy and you need to be positive and you need to be young and you need to be beautiful and all those
Mm.
things that we're trying to crush and be like, you know,
I know.
doesn't mean anything,
No,
right?
absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, I love that. And I love that it's connecting to the body and through somatic practices. And so I, I've seen a lot of what you do online, and I love the poetry in motion,
Mm.
and I love your podcast, the Raw Conversations, and I feel like that's a bit how I got to know you as well, because
Mhm.
we met, and then there was a long time without seeing each other, but it was
Yeah.
such a, as you said, just you shared things that are deeply personal and also vulnerable, and just felt like, wow, I love that you are letting yourself be seen. as
Mm.
well. And that when you're setting the example with yourself, of course. Like it's like
Mhm.
you can't just tell other to be authentic
Mhm.
and not showing up for yourself as well. So I love that. Can you tell me like how you started the both poetry in motion and raw conversations?
Something I really learned in my late 20s when I was doing all the kind of studying and doing lots of meditation retreats, and everything that I was yearning for, like I was so yearning to feel connected like I once did when I was on the stage, because I felt like I was connected to 5,000 people watching. There was this, but there was this part of me that's like, I want to be seen, I want to be connected to, and everything was this external, because I was on the stage, I had that charisma and that openness, and that's how I grew up with that. And I remember just the pain of feeling like, oh, I'm not connected to humanity, I'm not connected to the masses, or I'm not seen, or there's something in me that really wanted to shine, not any way from a place of vanity. It was more from a place of connection, and wanting to really emanate what I knew I was here to give.
Yeah.
And it was very deeply painful when I was taken away from the stage and from what felt like my purpose. And I felt like that connection was severed, and that ability to shine was severed. And then I really got it. It landed in, I was doing a course on authenticity leadership. And it was like, oh, if you want to connect, if you want to feel connected with others, you have to connect. If you want to feel seen, you have to reveal yourself. If you want to feel heard, you need to speak. And
Mm.
so that shifted everything. Like, instead of waiting for the outside to make me feel that, it was like, oh no, you need to. It's like the flower blossoming. You open up, and then all will be revealed. But it's an inside out job. And so I understood that more when I was in my 30s and I was writing a book and I was in front of the computer like all the time. It was driving me crazy. So the poetry in motion started because it was like, I need to move. I'm sitting in front of the computer. It drives me crazy. And when you're a professional artist, you think that it's all or nothing. So I thought, if I want to
Yeah.
keep that spark alive, I have to do a big production, and I need to, find dancers and a stage and, thousands of people. But in the meantime, the artist in me was kind of dying because it had been dormant for so many years. And I just, all of a sudden, I began poetry in motion literally in the chair at my desk. And I would have a poem that would come through like super fast. I would write it down, no editing. I would find a piece of music that just felt like it resonated. I would do an improvisation of movement, and I would throw it all into iMovie. I would put like a black and white filter. I would play with slow and fast motion, and that's it. The whole point
Mm.
was no editing, no perfecting. Like, this is just for my creativity and for my expression. And as a ballet dancer, it was learning the art of imperfection, you
Yes.
know?
Yes.
So that liberated so much
Mm.
for me. And it was also in a period of time where I was towards the end of my marriage, and feeling like years of the woman in me feeling very stifled.
Mm.
Like, I had to make myself very small. The feminine in me didn't feel like it could come out. I was sexually very frustrated. I was a mother, and that's a whole different expression of a woman. And some of my first poetry in motion series was the many women within a woman.
Mm.
So all of this, like, my creativity was coming back out online, the various aspects of being a woman were coming out. This part that's just, again, as you get older, and it's gotten better as I've gotten in my 40s, that kind of has this, like, I don't know if I can say this on your podcast, but like, fuck it,
Yes. Say it.
just like,
We're dull killers.
good,
Fuck
yes. Yeah, but this part that's like, I don't give a shit. I don't need to be anyone for anyone else. And after years of feeling kind of a repressed version of myself. There was this part that's just the wildness, the wild
Mm.
woman. You know, when we look at the four archetypes of the maiden, the mother, the enchantress, wild woman, and the sage or the wise woman, the wild woman wanted to come out, you know, like everything, like all the fucking boxes was like, I don't, you
Gonna
know,
shatter it
not,
all.
yeah, I'm gonna crush it all, but not from a place of anger. It was just from a self liberation point.
Mm.
And so yeah, the creativity came out of that. And then the raw conversations was just this ongoing, like, can we just have human conversations? Can we just be real? Can we just share what it's like to be in our human experience? And I was looking at it from the perspective of being a coach, but also, this woman that was going through so many different changes of divorce, and later on down the line in the podcast of like traveling with my daughter, and all these thresholds to kind of move through. And I guess wanting to just, I think I'm happiest when I hear people, when they say that they resonate, like they feel like it's similar to what you said. They're like, oh, I feel like I know you,
Yeah.
because it's just a conversation, like you're having a cup of tea and you're just chatting in your living room,
Yeah.
and somehow that it makes their humanity feel okay, and that there's nothing to be ashamed of. So I mean, I've had to move through the period of the vulnerability of like, yeah, you're putting yourself on the line. And
Yeah.
I remember when I was 16, I had a palm reading, and this woman said, you're going to be in the limelight, but if you're going to be in the limelight, you have to be okay with having rotten tomatoes thrown in your face. So I was like,
Oh, wow. Yes, absolutely. Do you,
yeah.
that's another question I have for you is, um, have you had any like people responding in a bad way, or commenting, or doing like be like, yeah, just wondering if there's only good comments, or if
Mm.
you've had any form of judgment towards your sharings, you know?
I mean, I have to say that for the most part, I've been very fortunate that I've had positive feedback, but I have seen, like, especially when I was writing a lot, and so there's more interaction because it's on social media.
Mm.
There was definitely projection or judgment. And I remember, like, I know I've evolved from that point, because I remember it would trigger me. Of course it's going to trigger,
Yeah.
because it's sensitive and it's vulnerable. And if somebody, this is the thing, you can share vulnerably, and I try to show up as authentic and honest as possible, but ultimately people still don't really know me, like, unless you're in my, not every day, but weekly or monthly life, you can't get the whole background, right?
No.
So there were, I got two different types of comments sometimes. So some was like kind of more the projection or the attack. But what I've learned through that, which is the gift, is just to not take things personal, and to actually have compassion that it's triggered something in them.
Yeah.
I have no problem taking self-responsibility if I've been like a twat or something like this, but I try to
Yeah.
show up with kindness and authenticity, but really going, oh, this isn't about me. This has triggered something in them. Instead of being angry at it, just having compassion, or
Yeah.
feeling hurt, having actually compassion for them. And the only other comments that I see is when people want to preach back to you,
Mm.
it's
Hmm.
like, oh, well, this is what and that there's this kind of, and I feel like I try, at least at the very best, to, I'm not telling anyone what they should do.
Yeah.
I always say at the end of my videos, take it or leave it as feels
Yeah.
right for you,
Mm.
because it's, who am I to say? Who am I? There's no one truth. There's no one right way. I'm just sharing mine. But it's funny when people come in with kind of you know, their theory.
Input,
Yes,
or
exactly. And but
Mhm.
again, I just go, okay, that's just where they're at. I think in general we need to learn just to have a hell of a lot more compassion for
Yeah, and
that.
at the end, it's also, by doing it, by posting it, you are creating that conversation. Maybe it's your inner conversation, but you're sharing it with others, and then you're getting a feedback, and maybe it's creating their own conversation with their loved ones or with themselves.
Yeah.
And that's the beauty of it. It's a mirror.
Mm. Yeah, no, and that's wonderful. Like that should be the point, right? All
Yeah.
of it should be like a seed that kind of evolves into something else, and people will
Mm,
take it, they will take it
yeah.
as they need to take it in that moment in time. That's not up to me or anyone, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, I'd like to come back on something that you said with around your relationship and your divorce,
Mm,
um, without necessarily getting into details here, but like just more how how it felt for you to get out of this specific marriage with and how because you had a child as well and how did you feel that you were getting out of a certain box and coming into realization? You said a little bit of that, but I'd love to expand on it a little bit. And
mm,
how did you feel when you were inside this marriage, and how did you feel when you came out of it?
mm. I mean, it was 9.5 years that we were together, and we had a child together. So it's like you change a lot in that time. And I think especially as women, we go in cycles, so we're not kind of always the same. So
Yes.
we're different. I was a different woman when I came out for sure. I think in the beginning, because we were very creative and we worked really well together, that there was this there was this flourishment, right? But then I also think in every relationship you can see what's going to be hard from the get-go. Like,
Mm-hmm.
we call it the red flags, or all of that, you can
Yeah.
see. And I think over the years, we moved to a very remote place, and I was very isolated, and I
Mm-hmm.
was by myself like 2 weeks of every month virtually, because he would travel for work. And I think what became the challenge and what made me kind of go in more in that way was, we often talk about how we want to be loved,
Mm-hmm.
but it's also how we get to love. Like, I think that's one of the things that we love about love, is that we get to love. Like, how good does it feel when you're in love, right? It feels amazing. And that's coming
Yes.
from us.
Yes.
And I think what was happening was that there wasn't that point of connection and presence. And I was ready to really evolve the relationship to a much more profound level. And he wasn't. Like, I can now see people can only meet us where they're at, with the
Mm-hmm.
capacity that they have, and we cannot force them to go beyond their capacity.
Yeah.
But towards the end of my marriage, I felt like really deeply lonely, because
Mm-hmm.
it wasn't the love that I wanted anymore. And I remember towards the end, did you ever see the film Call Me by Your Name?
Yes. I love that film.
Beautiful film, right?
Yes.
So beautiful. And that, like it got me in the heart,
Mm.
because
Yeah.
what I cried at the end, and I looked at him and I said, that's the kind of love that I want. And
Mm.
I don't feel like I get to love you in that way, because your heart isn't open to be loved
Mm.
in that way.
Mm.
And I just had this like yearning to be in that profundity of love, and just feeling like this was so limited and there was no more way to grow. Like, I tried for 3-4 years to kind of
Mm.
say, hey, this is what I would love, can we work on this? And his thing, which he would admit, was like, let's just ignore that, let's just put that under the rug, let's just,
Mm.
everything's happy and fine. And it's like, it's not okay. And I think at that time he couldn't really see. I think he judged a lot, again, of my emotions and my
Yeah.
desires. And
Mm-hmm.
and so there was a lot of judgment, and there was a lot of pain in that. And then towards the end, when you're asking, who did I come out of that relationship as, was a woman that just was like, this is my life, and I don't want to, I'm not someone that can go away from my own heart. So
Mm.
it's like, if my heart is saying, I'm not happy right now, or I'm not in the fullest expression of myself, and I will try probably too much to try and make something work, like I probably stay in a little bit too long. But I think I emerged as, as the Poetry in Motion came out, as the woman that's like, I'm no longer going to make myself small. Other people or situations or things can make us feel like we're being placed in a box, but ultimately it's up to us to say, as I said earlier, like, fuck it. No, I'm not going to be placed in this box. I want to, um, so it took courage. It took a lot of courage to, believe in myself, to not apologize for myself, to not be projected on. Like there was definitely some projections of,
Mm.
oh, this is what's happening for you. And I'm like, nope, actually, this is the truth. Is I'm not happy. I'm not happy in this marriage. And that can be enough, right? Instead of, oh, it's because of these reasons.
Mm.
And I think coming out of that really showed me it reminds me of the relationship, the short 9-month relationship that I was with a narcissist when I was 22, that it showed me the strength and my dedication to myself, my soul.
Mm.
I think when we were talking, it reminded me of Glennon Doyle that says at one point you have to choose your soul or your marriage, and you
Yes.
got to choose your
Coming
soul.
back to source.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. And that's part of like, the whole work that you're doing on, yes, being like listening to your heart, listening to your soul, and your body knows. Like you probably had signs of that of things that were probably happening in your body as well in that time of I need to
yeah.
get out.
And emotions, I want to speak to
Mm.
that briefly if I can. I got really angry.
Mm.
I got really angry. And I remember my mom after being like, God, Corinne, I never have seen you that angry. And I can be a
Mm.
passionate, fiery person. I've got a fire moon.
Yeah.
But I think emotions are messengers, right? So it was telling me that whenever we feel angry or we feel depressed, our spirit is depressed. It's
Yeah.
being pressed down upon. And the anger is that fire, that fuel to say, you need to do something about this.
Mm.
You're frustrated, you're not happy, you're not in alignment with your higher self anymore. And we need to get your attention. Like sadness isn't enough sometimes. Like we've been through the sadness, and then the anger is like, wake up. And so I went through a period of being so angry, but that was also the catalyst for, and I fed it into my creativity, but that was the catalyst to have the courage to say enough.
Mm.
And the separation, I always have the intention to do it consciously and peacefully and amicably, and it was all of those things. But to really honor, I think we live in a society that's like, oh no, don't get angry, that's bad, that's negative. And actually, if you pay attention to it for what it's there for,
Yeah.
not that you regurgitate it onto other people, but you take self-responsibility for it and you listen, what is this telling me?
Mhm.
Sometimes that is the doorway, that is the portal, that is the path.
Wow. The rebellion.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Before we wrap this episode, I'd love to talk about how do you bring your magic self into the world in your everyday life? Like, what are the maybe like a little toolbox that you have? Not a box, a toolbox.
Yeah. Good
um,
differentiation. Yeah.
yes, of I don't know. It can be anything that you do every day or regularly that helps you be in this world, really.
Mm. Oh God, that's a good question. I'm not sure if it always feels okay to be in this world, but yeah. Um, I think I've become pretty dedicated that literally every morning I wake up and I sit up in bed and I immediately ground. I ground. I do my breathing exercises. I do my grounding cord. I like move through each center and just really come into that I am presence. And I don't like to call it meditation. I call it being with, like just be with yourself, be with, I'll tune into my guides and to feeling, it's like feeling my soul self and feeling the integration of my soul self with my human self and beginning that day, the day with that before I even put my feet on the ground. And I'm very mindful. It sounds so kind of like religious, but I'm very mindful of how I wake up because it sets the tone, and it's just to land back in myself and to feel the expansion of who I am. And when I put my feet on the ground, to really feel my feet on the ground. And so that no matter what gets thrown at you in the day, I know that I can come back to center because I began there.
It's
Does that
like
make sense?
you you come back of the birth canal every morning. You come out of it, of the
Yeah,
birth canal every
beautiful.
morning. It's like,
Yeah.
oh, here we go again.
Yeah, yeah. Although this time I'm like, okay, come on. No, let's make it. Yeah, but it's a beautiful thing. Like I think we forget ourselves really quickly. So
Yeah.
for me, just to come in and really land in myself before the day can kind of sweep you in other directions. And then something that I come in and out of, but I try to remind myself is dance. Like even if it's 1 minute of just doing a little, a shake. I actually used to do it with my daughter every morning. We haven't done it in ages, but little things for me, creativity, being in nature, taking a walk, listening to the birds, but something that gets me out of my head and into my body and into my soul self. That I can't go a day without, yeah, without having that, because it's too easy to forget otherwise, and it's too easy to get caught up in the noise. And so I especially as I get older, it's like stillness, quiet, listening to my being, not my mind, but my being. And I think the reminder of come back to heart, come back to heart, come back to heart. So that those are my anchor
I
points.
love that. And I'm guessing that the nighttime is also like before you actually enter the state of sleep. That's also maybe a nice transition of instead of like scrolling and
Yeah.
then
Yeah, yeah.
Mm,
No, definitely. I either try to listen to something that's
mm,
inspiring or just, don't listen to anything at all and come back
yeah,
to yourself because I love dreaming. So it's
yeah,
it's like to be able to have a bit of a clean slate before you go into the sleep state.
yeah.
Yeah, but I think just come back to yourself. That's my biggest tool in the toolbox is anything that just brings me back to myself and can kind
Mm,
of let the rest,
yeah.
wash off. I take a shower every night. Like
Yes, yeah,
literally.
absolutely. Wash
Yeah.
off the energies and
Yeah.
maybe one of my last question would be, I know right now you are in transitional spaces and not having yet found like more of a permanent home. In that uncertainty, how do you envision yourself in the future? Like, how do you envision your practice, your work as a coach, as an intuitive?
Mhm.
Where do you see yourself? I don't. It's a big question, right? But like, if there was no limitations of any kind,
Mhm.
if there
Mhm.
was no box,
Mhm.
where would you be, and what would you do?
That's a great question. Hmm. Well, I think the vision in many ways would be very simple. I would love to be with my partner that I'm still calling in, to have a home that really feels like a sanctuary. Like I keep on saying, I just want my pocket of peace in this world, with all the chaos. Community feels so important to have people around where there's really genuine human connection and heart to heart connection and the sharing of meals and dancing and singing and just doing the
Joy.
things. Yeah,
Mm.
joy. I remember we were talking about this,
Yeah.
like, can we learn through joy now? Can we grow through joy? Like enough of the suffering. um and my work, I would love, I miss doing things in person. It's everything is gone. I mean, it's amazing, right? We can have this conversation, but
Yeah.
I really, my vision would be to bring people into a beautiful space in nature and to really the work that I feel very compelled to go into is embodiment, like bringing the soul into the body, because that's what this experience is. Like the body is, I'll use terminology that maybe people will be triggered by or whatever, but it's what we use, the midpoint between heaven and earth.
Yeah.
Right. And so it's not about transcending and leaving the body. It's really about, you are a soul having this human experience, but what does it feel like to land your soul in your body and be okay with the humanity, but also to be in your divinity. And I'm learning to call more of my soul into my body as well, and to really ground it, because I think the moment we do that, it's like I see it as this source of almost like lightning, like a lightning bolt that comes in and it grounds.
Yeah.
And it's this point between two amazingly cosmic places, right? The infinite galactic and the earthly, which is also of the cosmos. And yet we're this incredible conduit in between.
Mm-hmm.
But I really feel this need to bring people back together and like put your bare feet on the earth and
Yeah.
feel again. And in the feeling is when we get to expand into our soul self. We don't go there through the mind. We go there through the heart and the body and the feelings and the tangibility and the visceralness
Yeah.
of this experience.
Yeah. In a world where a lot of in a world where people want to escape more, like through so many things, whether it's social media or I
Yeah.
don't know, any form of addiction and drugs and whatever.
Yeah. Yeah. And
Mm.
and actually it's like the
And not
very thing
feel.
that we, yeah, but
Yeah.
that is the portal to our freedom. Like to feel, it gives us access to freedom, because
Mm.
once, especially when you embrace your fear and you discover the power of vulnerability,
Yeah.
you can go into that soul self where it's like nothing touches you. It's not to say that you don't still have feelings or care or can get hurt, but there is this, you're at home. I want to bring
Mm.
people home to who they are. And in order to feel at home, you need to feel comfortable with all parts of yourself, because otherwise a part of you is like in the doghouse, in the
Yes.
rain,
Yes.
alone and
Yes.
isolated. And it's like, no, 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 come in. There's a warm fire, there's a cozy blanket, there's a cup of tea,
Yeah.
and just include all parts. There's nothing wrong with any of these parts. There's nothing to run away from. Everything is walk towards it, because it's all you, and the
Yeah.
parts that scare you the most need the most love.
Wow, that's beautifully said.
Mm,
Mm. Let's just do a little fire round of questions.
cool.
What is one word that describes your authentic self today?
The word that comes, two words actually, wild and laughter. I have no
Mm,
idea why, but that's what comes through.
I love it. Well, you've been wild and we've been laughing.
Yeah.
um, what rule have you recently broken, big or small?
The rule of authority.
Mm,
Nothing has authority over me.
that's a good one.
Hmm.
What's your guilty pleasure? Not guilt. What's your guilty pleasure that actually heals you?
I don't know if it heals me, but chocolate.
Ah, yes.
I don't feel guilty about it at all. At
Yes.
all.
Just a pleasure, just your pleasure.
Yeah. Yeah.
What would you say to the dancer that you are, were, always will
Mm.
be?
Mm. Go have fun. You get to just be you, play.
Mm, I love that.
Mm.
And last one, what box are you smashing today?
Ooh, that is a good one. And it's such a hard one. There's so many. the box that this is anything other than what you would like it to be.
Mm.
This is our experience. This is our life. This is our whatever you want to call it. And really coming into that space of you get to make it what you want to make it. You know, like just play, be the artist, be the creator. So nobody else's box, nobody else's creation.
Namaste. Corinne, it's been such a pleasure. I feel like we are in the same room, and that
No.
it's just such a joy to always share like very deep and raw conversations with you. Um, I'm gonna encourage everyone to go and check your website, your social media, your YouTube channel, your Spotify. And to keep on following you, because you are giving us actually so much joy in this world, and bringing your authentic self is a gift. So thank you, Corinne.
Thank you.
I look forward to seeing you in the next journey, in the next space, and with all the things that you want to call in your life.
Yeah, thank you. And likewise, thank you for just holding the space, creating the space, for asking beautiful questions, and just for being such a beautiful woman and soul yourself. And just, I love your light and your color. And
Mm.
yeah, it's really lovely. I feel very honored to be here with you.
Oh, thank you.
If you've ever felt boxed in, silenced, or underestimated, this show is for you. Subscribe now, share this with the people in your life who are ready to break free and join the rebellion. My name is Cécile Delepière. I'm a filmmaker and storyteller, but most importantly, je suis doll killer.
I'm not a doll, I don't play small. I'm not a doll, don't box me in. I'm not a doll, I own my voice. Je suis doll killer.
Like a little something tingling in my nose. I will not put that in the podcast unless
Bloopers.
they want to see everything. We want to see you blow your nose. That's your authentic self.
Yeah, exactly. Let's see the human in you. Come
Oh,
on.
come on.